It is such an honor to be with you all, you amazing school leaders, gathered together for this beyond fantastic back to school seminar. I'm really honored to be here, especially to share this topic with you. It is such an important topic to me, and I'll explain why. In 2015, 2016, I noticed that my eyes started to get hazy. I didn't know what the problem was, to be honest. I'll be driving and I wouldn't be able to see well. It was like there was a film over my eye. I was having palpitations. I actually went to the hospital. They referred me to Readiness. I had a heart halter. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember the name right now. I carried that for 2 weeks. What it was doing was measuring the waves between my heartbeats and the waves and something. I don't know what it was measuring. 2 weeks I had that because I'd sit down and my heart would just begin to have palpitations. I was hazy. I was always tired. I had recurrent headaches. I didn't know what the matter was with me, but I knew I was fine, but I wasn't fine. So we continued this. The doctors kept checking and finding what was wrong with me. When they took it and did the analysis, they said there was nothing, your heart is fine. They just didn't know what the matter was. And so we just kept checking. Sometime in, I think, 2016, my doctor said to me, let's do a review. So they started to do a review. They pulled back my files and started to check from when my children were how old. They were just checking. They didn't know what the matter was. And after a couple of weeks, the doctors called me back and said they needed to see me. And I went and they said, what happened in 2013? I said, 2013, nothing. They said, something major must have happened. I said, why? They said, because it was from then we noticed that your blood pressure started to rise. It was from then you started to come in to complain about things going on with you. It was from then. I sat down there. I didn't know. Hey, I said, what is wrong with me? So my blood pressure had started to rise. I internally, I wasn't looking good, and it was tied to 2013. I didn't remember. I think just before I left the doctor's office, I was like, you know what, go think about it, then come back. I think it was just before I left, and I was like, 2013. I started my school in 2013. That's the only thing that I know was major. And it was like, so tell me how this is. I said, what is? I love it. I like it. I'm happy with, being an educator. I don't have any problems with it, and that's it, right? And said, well, there's something going on. If it was since 2013, that's the only thing that we have that is consistently still with you, or that you're still doing, then it must be tied to this, right? Go and look at the stressors around having a school. And I said, stressors. But it's not stressful. I'm enjoying it. They were like, because you are enjoying something doesn't necessarily mean that it is all good for you. I said, really? They said, yes. And that's where my journey started from. And so today, what I want us to do is we will start with an exercise, and I'll explain the exercise to all of us. I want you to take your right hand and put it on your left shoulder, and take your left hand and put it on your right shoulder. Now I need you to try to move that hand and then squeeze. Give yourself a hug, and just close your eyes and give yourself a hug. Your camera might be off, your camera might be on, we can't see you. You can't, maybe you're seeing us, but just do that exercise and give yourself a hug. Being an educator, it's not an easy business. It is not an easy thing to do. I went back and I left that place and I said to myself, what gives me stress? And one of the major problems that gives me stress is not being able to tell the parents off like I would. And so I took that particular part of my job and I handed it over to somebody else because I knew that it was giving me a lot of stress. And it did not go overnight. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Now, it didn't go overnight. But things started to change with me. I started to get better. Like I said, it didn't go overnight, but I started to get better. And that's something that you need to understand. Self-care, knowing yourself, caring for yourself, is extremely, extremely critical to your total well-being and to even the ability for you to run your school. We might think we're just running a school. It's much more than that. There's a lot that we do that many people cannot do. And so that you're doing it and doing it consistently is something to be proud of. But you see, because of how we love it, educators are all hard. You know, we put ourselves inside, head, neck, shoulder, leg, toes, everything. We literally jump in with both feet and we don't want to come out because we're happy, we love it. You know, it's something that we enjoy doing. So why should I, since I enjoy it, why should I stop? You know, nobody's saying you should stop, but take a look. You know, how is your spiritual health? Is that where it should be? How about your physical well-being? Is that where it should be? Your social, is it, you know, are you spending time with your family? Are you spending time with your friends? Are you going out like you should? Are you going out too much? Right? So all of these things matter. Because you belong to a clique of school leaders, does that mean that you have to go everywhere they're going, even if it doesn't align with your value systems? Because everybody is doing a giving doesn't mean you must give. You know, what exactly are your boundaries? These are all important for self-care. That's extremely important. How about your intellect? Because it is not cool for a school leader to go to school, or it is cool for a school leader to go to school, have all these certificates or not have them, or just let myself do it all. You know, who are you? Are you empty? Are you draining? Just draining out, and you don't even realize it, right? Because it is something that everybody is doing. The society, the social, you know, there are constructs that you feel you must align to. Because are you getting empty without even realizing it? Think about it. Are you getting empty without realizing it? Self-care is a big deal. Big deal. It's a compound word, and like all compound words, the first word in the compound word, like the leading word, is actually leading. It gives context, it gives depth, it gives clarity to the second word. So self-care, you are caring for yourself. Water bottle is a bottle that carries water. House boy is a boy that walks around the house. Girlfriend is a friend that is a girl. Head teacher is a teacher but is the leader of all teachers, right? You know, think about it. Rainbow, it's a rain droplets that have been caught up in a bow. I said it's a bow that is a rain. Right? But that is it, right? So you must constantly be able to see yourself and understand the fact that you must care for yourself. You cannot be caring for everybody else and neglecting yourself and thinking that it's going to be okay. It's not. You matter. You do. Look at this young lady, right? In Self, in the blue box. She's so checkered. She's drained in so many ways. She's pulled up in so many different directions. Who is she? Is she brown? Is she the yellow? Is she the orange? Is she red? Is she the dotted? You know, who is she? Does she even know who she is? Or is she so checkered because she's trying to conform to things that no longer serve her, but she feels she has to? Is that you? Is that you? You matter. You matter. And a lot of times, because of the nature of education, we honestly forget who we are. And so you wake up one day and you suddenly look up and you say, what am I doing here? Why am I here? This is not where I want to be. Why am I here? You don't even know where here is. You have forgotten who you are. And so today I want to just close your eyes. Just close your eyes and write it in the sheet of paper beside you. Who am I? What are my values? What matters to me? Why did I start a school? Am I still on that path? The things I am doing now, do they align with the goals I want to achieve? Think about it and write them down. Ask yourself those questions. Have this conversation with yourself. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, what I see in the mirror, is that who I am? Am I proud of what I see? Do you see in the mirror and see somebody who is not doing well, who maybe hasn't met their goals? We wanted to have 500 children, but right now we have 200. We wanted to not, you know, what are the definitions that you have heaped upon yourself that are not from you, that do not serve you? Write it down. Now I need you to take a moment and just look at those things that you've written down. Please take a deep breath and look at them. What do you see? Are you trapped within a glass frame because you're afraid to move? Because if you move, you'll break it, you'll shatter it. What is the glass frame you have kept your essence inside of? Take it out, remove it. Remove the lid, right? Remove the glass jar and be free. That is what self-care is. Self-care is recognizing that You know what? I have physical, social, emotional, psychological. I have all these things that are going on around me, and I need to recognize them. I need to say to myself, this matters to me, or say to myself, this doesn't matter to me. I want to keep doing this, or I don't. You are fragile, but you're also not fragile. Yes, you have a definition, but you also have a definition that is untrue, that maybe you've taken on and is causing a dissonance. You need to be able to identify what it is and take yourself out of that place. When you break the glass ceiling, you break it once, and then it's broken, and then you can truly be free. But don't sit down there because you're afraid to break it, something that you didn't create. And then you've trapped yourself in a cycle, a never-ending cycle of stress, of dissonance on the inside of you, simply because you want to conform to what society says that you should be, or what you think you should be, because you no longer recognize the essence of who you are. Please break free. Please. Break free. Break free. All right? And say to yourself, self-care isn't selfish. I'm not selfish when I take time out for myself. Say it to yourself, and don't just say it and believe it, because it is true. It is true. It is absolutely true. All right. So we're going to be looking at self-care in this 4 quadrants. I really like these quadrants because they're very important. The emotional well-being, physical well-being, social well-being, of course, psychological well-being, they're all really important. Your emotions, do you even recognize where you are emotionally? Do you know what triggers your anger? What makes you angry? Awareness, that's important. What are the physical needs that you have of your job, of being with your family, of being with friends, all of those things are important, and you need to know what they are so that you can respond to them. Like, right, some of them is internal stimuli, some are external stimuli, but some of them are outside your influence. If you work, for example, in a school, there's certain things that are required of you. You need to do them, so that is your physical well-being. It's important to you, right? And you need to know it. Then, of course, we go into the social well-being. Like I said, must you go to every party? And then, of course, the psychological, which really is mental well-being, right? It is your learning. It is your thinking, your growth mindset, all of that are psychological. They're in there, and you need to be able to recognize them and deal with them appropriately. Then I'm going to break them all apart, okay? And the first one we're going to be looking at is emotional. What is your emotional state? Now, though that picture you see on the right corner of your screen, it's a really important picture to me, because it shows me that we're accepting of the things that have been thrown to us, right? There's an awareness, and it starts from awareness. You cannot accept what you're not aware of. So you must be aware of where you are as a person, of the things that you want to achieve, but the things you cannot achieve right now. And you must say to yourself, you know what? I'm okay. I am going to go there. And so who are you? Who are you? Who do you want to be? What is important to you? Those are really important, right? And then you need to accept the fact that I might not be there right now. Doesn't mean I will not get there. Do you understand? You will. You've just not gotten there yet, right? And then the dissonance on the inside of you, you need to, when you are aware of the dissonance, that's what's causing you a lot of that internal stress. You're accepting of it and know, you know what, I can move forward from this place. I'm okay. I can do this. Then that entire thing, you then come into a place where you're in harmony. All right, it doesn't happen like that, but it is one step in front of the other. It is moving forward with the things that you have decided to do, and being self-aware enough, not just for yourself, but even for your team, right? So encourage your team to do this as well. If you have a team member who is not taking care of themselves emotionally, it will affect the job, and ultimately it will affect you. Right? So when you're doing these sort of exercises, also keep an eye on your team and be sure that that is happening with them as well. All right? And then, of course, you need to get into the place of physical well-being. As teachers, as educators, as school leaders, there are certain parts of our jobs that physically we just have to be fit for it. Let me give you an example. And sometimes it's not even being fit, it's just understanding what you should and shouldn't do. So, I'm typically very active, but I didn't realize that at a certain age, certain things begin to happen as for a woman, and there are just certain things I shouldn't do. So during graduation in July, I had my preschoolers moving, we had the move up ceremony with the graduation ceremony for those going out of year 6 and those going from year 12 into the university. And so we had that entire ceremony together. Now, our preschoolers are not as tall as I am. I'm not tall, I'm not tall at all, but they're not as tall as I am. So I had to constantly squat to talk with them. And we had over 20 something preschoolers moving up. And so I constantly kept doing that, and I was wearing very thin heels. I actually strained my soft tissue behind my knee, and it started to spasm, and it spasmed so bad, right? I mean, the doctors told me I had to stay off it for 2 weeks, but I haven't been able to stay off it for 2 weeks, right? So I'm still having the pain. It's much better. It's manageable now. I mean, I can walk, I can drive, but it was really bad. Now, that was the physical dictate I was not aware of. I didn't know. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong with my leg? What's going on? What's going on? I didn't think about it. And so we must be aware. This thing that I'm doing, how does it affect me? You're constantly bending and carrying children and constantly standing, not drinking enough water, not resting enough. You're constantly on the move. Is it that are you getting enough rest? Do you even understand the dictates of your job? Because that, again, is a frustration, right? You have a school administrator, you haven't quite explained to them that, guy, you're going to be on your feet like 75 to 95% of the time. They don't understand it. They feel that they have an office, and so they always need to be in their office. You're stressed out because you're doing the moving around and they're sitting down. Yeah. You need to be aware of what you need to tell your team, and your team needs to be aware. And then you guys need to come into that place where you're like, where am I right now? And how do I need to improve? And they also need to understand that and get to that place. Right now, what are those things that you haven't conquered? Those will lead to a dissonance. Like me, I need to understand that I can't wear heels all the time for hours, and I'm standing for hours presenting certificates. I'm talking and talking and talking, hours and hours and hours. No, I need to wear more sensible shoes, right? Or hand over part of that ceremony to somebody else for that part. Yes, parents love me doing it, but this girl is going on 46. She's not going to be able to do all of that all the time anymore, right? So I need to be able to begin to manage part of that expectation. Not that I won't do it, but then I just need a support, right? Or I need to know the boundaries. Okay, KK, don't go down this low 20 times, 25, 30 times, do it once or twice and then you're okay. And that would have been fine, right? But it's explaining to people and being aware, okay? And the next one we're going to go to is, I think we're going to look at the emotional one. No, not the emotional. We're going to look at the social. And that's a really important one as well. Yes, social. So what are the social dictates of your job, right? Must you go for every child's party or every parent's event, every parent's party? Because you are in an education group, doesn't mean you have to be there for every single event. Now, I think I was about between 36 and 38 when I realized that I was living life for people. I was living life because I wanted to be seen as belonging. And I had to call myself and say, KK, what's wrong with you? I'm telling you, this was about like 8 years ago, 8 years ago. And I called myself like, babe, stop it, and I did. But I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing. I just felt it was part of it now. All in education. And my husband would tell me, again, but you said you were tired. I'm like, it's okay, all right, I'll rest. But I had to call myself and say, you know what, KK, what are my values? What am I trying to prove? Who am I trying to prove it to? And when I couldn't answer that question, I had to call myself aside and I stopped it. Right? So what are your values? Where do you need to be? Why are you here? You need to ask yourself that question. And again, look at those three: awareness, acceptance, and dissonance. They're so important, right? And you know what? These things that you're learning, if your team is not here with you, move it onto your team as well. Because they need to know. If they're burning the candles at both ends, then where are they going to hold eventually? It's all just going to burn in at the same time. Instead of burning just from one hand, you hold it and then you can manage the rate of what melts. Yeah, you can manage the rate of melt. Now, this one is so important to me, psychological, because it deals with your mental well-being. It's not just the learning you're going to. It's not just your thinking ability. It's not just your growing and problem solving. It's much more than that. Now, because we're business people, right, I used the 4 P's of marketing to represent this because I think it's going to just strike it home. I like acronyms. I like, these sort of things. I like frameworks, right? So This psychological framework is going to help you. What is the price of what you are doing or what you're not doing? Are you a learning environment? Are you a teaching environment? Are people growing in your environment? Are you allowing people to actually solve the problem, or are you always doing it? What is the price of not allowing people to grow mentally to you and to the organization? Is it just a small group of people that you are developing, or are you looking at everybody else? What sort of well-being are you promoting in the place where you are? And that's place and promotion going together. The place is the environment. What you're promoting is the culture, the behavior patterns that you have approved or not approved. Is it okay for people not to go for training? And it's okay. They shouldn't go for training. They shouldn't train themselves. You're not training them. If you don't have money to pay for your training, be gone. Or stay there. Training pays for itself, right? It pays for itself in the abilities of the people. You're saying to yourself, hey, if I train them, they will go. If they don't go, you have a group of dunderheads that can't do the job simply because you have refused to invest in them. Invest, let them go. They will go and say they are coming from this school, they are fantastic. I know how many of my team members have been taken away. Is it painful? Yes, but you know what? They're taking them away because they're doing a good job and they fly wherever they go to. Don't come and take my team. But that's important, right? And then the product, all of those things determine the product. The product is the person, it's you, right? If you've trained yourself, you're mentally in a great place for your mental well-being. It's a learning environment, meaning everybody's learning, everybody's growing, everybody's doing stuff, not just you or not just a few people. Then guess what? The products that everybody is going to achieve or everybody's going to put out is going to be great. And so you must look at your psychological well-being, not just from you being mentally okay, but from everybody else as well within the organization. Running a school is a team sport. Self-care, even though it starts with self, kind of is a team sport as well, because if everybody else is not doing the right things, then it's going to affect you. And when it affects you, then there's going to be a problem, because it will be like it's an epileptic move. You're okay today, you're not okay tomorrow. You're okay today, you're not okay tomorrow. And it's just like that, it's just like that, it's just like that. It's not a hit and miss. It's not a one-time hit. It's not Billie Jean. It's not, no. It's a slow ride. It's a marathon. Actually, it's life. It's a journey, and we are all moving on that journey, and you need to understand it. It's so important that you do that, right? To understand the fact that you must make time out for the things that matter. And that is what this box right here represents. This one. How are you planning your self-care routine? How are you taking the time out to say, you know what? I'm going to close early today. I'm not going to come to work today. Guys, are you having your break time? You need to ask those questions. You need to. They need to know. You just have to. If people are not taking time out, they're going to burn out. You are going to burn out. You will go into the state of depression without even understanding that you are. You don't have enough time in a day, to be honest with you, to do all the things that you have to do. You just don't have enough time, right? So you're going to have to say, who are the people that I have? Which is why this is so important, and it's tied to the last slide, psychological. If you're not training and building people, you're going to find that you're going to have to be doing all the work by yourself. You will not take time for self-care. And so you must build people. And this one says, what are those things that are your spotlight? What are those things you absolutely have to do, maybe by yourself? How do you plan them into your day so they get done? Because not getting done affects your business. And then what are you putting aside money for? Do you guys as a team go out? Do you once in a while just buy rice for people, buy cakes for people, or take pictures, buy drinks, just have fun, just, do stuff that makes people happy? You have to allocate part of your budget to self-care routines, not just for you, but for the team. That is important, because if you're not spending money on the things that we would say the right things that promote self-care and well-being, then it means that you might, it's something that needs to be done. Okay? What is resilience? Resilience is the ability to conform, to mold, to be elastic, Plastic, because we can bend it, doesn't mean it is any less plastic than plastic. Because I can stretch this rubber band and twist it and turn it around, doesn't make it any less of a rubber band. It is still a rubber band. That is part of the properties of it. You must be that person who is flexible. Have your eye on the goal. This goal, we must meet the goal, but be flexible with how you meet it, okay? And that is resilience. Being resilient is part of self-care, because there's some things that would happen and you wonder, why me? How can? It has nothing to do with you. Not everything is within your sphere of control. Some of them are in your sphere of influence, but you just can't control it. All right, so move on and move on quickly from there. If not, you're going to sit there and you're just going to start feeling really sad, and that really affects a lot of different things, because the way that you feel then begins to affect your actions. All right, and that is not a great place to be. So you need to quickly pick yourself up and just honestly keep going. Pick yourself up once again and keep going, right? And these four guide me, particularly as a person. I always say to myself, what time do I have to get this done? You know, how much time do I have to get this done? And then I schedule my tasks. I schedule, yeah, their tasks, you know, I schedule them and I say, okay, I need to do this, do this, do this. And I write them down. And then sometimes when there are different methodologies that I use, but sometimes I have to tunnel, you know, focus on this block of tasks and then move on. Sometimes I batch tasks together, but there are different things that I do, right? But I use my time very wisely, and I'm very jealous of my time, okay? And I have time allocated. I have time for faffing around. I allocate it. I plan. If you see if I show you my digital planner, you would run away. You'd be like, what? Plan, and they're ringing. And for me, it matters. If it tells me time to take a break, time to read your romance novel, time to watch Netflix, it's there. I plan it in. If not, I'm going to get caught up in some other things and not do these things that allow me to distress and just drop my day, right? So I need to plan it well. And then the second person says focus. There are times when you honestly need to focus. It doesn't matter what is going on around you, just focus, drill down, because you have empowered your team. Remember, we talked about empowering people. You have empowered your team to get the right things done, to know that where they need to focus, they will focus on it. And then you can then drill down and, you know, hit that bullseye, because you are able to do that, because you need to do that. It is part of self-care. If not, then there's a dissonance. You're wondering, this thing needs to be done, but let me go and focus on this one. So really, what is important? You need to prioritize. And that is part of mental well-being, that ability to prioritize. It's important, right? And then the third smiley says timeout. There are times where you take a timeout. And a lot of times where I'm struggling and drilling and talking and checking and I just can't seem to make headway out of a particular situation, I just call it timeout. And I'm like, you know what, people? Let's leave this thing. Let's leave it for an hour. Let's leave it for one day. Let's go and sleep and come back. Maybe in the shower, inspiration will strike, right? People are always having inspiration striking in the shower. So let's leave it, and we leave it. We actually just take a time out. We haven't dropped it, but we've left it for a bit. Let it cool down. Let our brains cool down, then we can come back to it. So sometimes take a time out. Instead of getting frustrated with it, you're stressed, you know, your emotional needle is going haywire because you're just not, call a time out and just leave it alone. And the last person is letting things go. There are times where you've tried to solve a problem, you've tried to resolve something, you can't resolve it, leave it alone. Just let it go. Let it go and just leave it. It's like bad debt. You know what? This is bad debt. We're not going to be able to recover this debt from a parent, so let's just leave it alone. And then leave it alone. Because you've spent time doing a bad thing or doing working within a wrong decision doesn't mean you should just sit down there and try. Sometimes it's unfixable. And so we need to, yeah, so that was my alarm telling me it's time to stop, you know. So I set alarms for every single thing, right? So let it go, okay? Self-care for me might be different from what self-care for you is. And that's the reality, right? So for me, saying I can't go for a party is self-care. I tell you, I'm regrettably, there are other things that I put up and I really cannot come in. There are times where I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm just not available. And it's okay. I own my no. I don't have to give you an explanation when I say no. A no is an affirmative statement of my value systems. It is no, right? But that's for me. If you try and take my self-care routine, it's not going to work for you because you ain't me, you know, you ain't Keke. So you need to develop your self-care routines and say to yourself, how am I going to do this? Why should I do this? And when you finally have those answers, put it together. Put it together and then walk into that self-care routine, own it, and do it consistently. I'm gonna end with this, right? These three, they're like a guide for me. Do, delegate, and drop. They're like your D3, your 3D, your 3 cubed, your D cubed, and they're so important, but own them, make them yours. What are those things you absolutely have to do? There's some things that I have to do, and I have to do them by myself. I'm not even going to be able to delegate it, right? I can't collaborate on it. I have to do it. And I know what those things are, and I make time for them because I have to do them. All right, they are part of my family routines, being with my children, my husband, my larger and extended family, spending time with my team, spending time with my clients. I mean, I have coaching clients that I work with, I have schools that I consult for, the times that I have to do those things by myself, the stakeholder meetings that I have to be in, you know, so they're things that I absolutely have to do by myself, and I have to do them, right? And I know, and I make time for them. They're things that I can delegate. I can delegate it, I can collaborate on it. So cooking jollof rice for my son that he loves, I don't have to do that. Spending time with my son watching a movie, I can do that, right? Sitting down and making pancakes with him because he enjoys it, I can do that. But I don't necessarily have to do some things. I go and buy the food and stock it in the fridge, and he eats it when he wants to, right? I don't have to clean my house, right? And that's okay. I don't necessarily have to drive myself all the time. I don't have to do my slides for a presentation, right? There's certain things I don't have to do. There's certain meetings I don't have to attend. I can have somebody else go and do it. I can collaborate with somebody to do part of my work, right? So what are those things I can delegate? I have to do them. Making time, saving time, stealing time, right? It's a part of a self-care routine, and you shouldn't be upset or feel sad that you are delegating things. It's also part of growing your team. Remember, psychological, you have to grow their mental capacity, and that is part of it. If you don't give them opportunity to practice, then they're never going to grow. They're never going to ever lead anything, because you're constantly in the lead. You don't have to be in front all the time, doing because you're the leader. No, step back. Hey, let somebody else lead. Part of showing that you're a great leader is that you have replicated yourself within your team, and that they can do the job without you being there. That is part of self-care. And then what are the things you have to drop? Drop it. They no longer serve. Don't do them anymore. Don't even delegate them because you're wasting somebody else's time. Drop it. These three are extremely critical. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to me, for allowing me to be your teacher and your facilitator today. And I want to say thank you to Apen for allowing me to share this topic. It is such an important topic to me because I've been there and I've had to conquer it. These days, my blood pressure doesn't rise. I'm able to keep them low. The doctors see me and they're like, ah, Mr. J, we haven't seen you. And I'm like, yes, you will see me, you know, except for my knee when I went to the hospital. I've not been in the hospital in a while. I'm able to identify my stressors and I manage them, okay? So that I'm in good health and I can keep doing the things that I love doing, like speaking with you today. Thank you all so much. I couldn't be there with you this morning because I had to travel and I couldn't move it. I just couldn't move it. But thank you. If you have any questions and you would like a self-care routine, or you want me to, you know, anything, send me a message, send me an email, buzz me on Instagram. I'll be more than happy to respond to you and to guide you on this beautiful self-care journey. Take care and God bless you.